Hi, this is Hale. This week we are re-releasing one of my favorite episodes. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do, and I'm sure you'll get even more insights from listening to it again if you've already heard it. Of the billions of people on our planet, only a few have discovered the truth. Those few are completely free from the turmoil and negativity of life and live in permanent peace and happiness. For the rest of us, whether we realize it or not, we've been in search of this truth unceasingly every single day of our lives. That's the opening paragraph in Rhonda Byrne's book, The Greatest Secret. And today we talk with her in this episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, a podcast dedicated to sharing the wisdom so beautifully expressed in this book. I'm Hale Dwoskin. My friend, the beloved best-selling author Rhonda Byrne, launched the global phenomena with the publication of The Secret in 2006. I was blessed to be featured in that book, which helped readers understand the untapped powers that reside within. Rhonda's newest book, The Greatest Secret, is a quantum leap that takes readers beyond the material world and into the spiritual realm where all possibilities exist. This book reveals the greatest discovery a human being can ever make and shows you the way out of negativity, problems, and what you don't want to a life of permanent happiness and bliss. I'm also blessed to be featured in The Greatest Secret along with my mentor, Lester Levinson. So welcome, Rhonda. Thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to having a wonderful conversation.
So am I. Thank you so much for having me, Hale. It's lovely to be here. Really is. And exciting we get to do this again. And both you and Lester have a big part in this book. So it's very, very special. And all of the teachers in the book are actually my journey from The Secret to now. And so every single teacher in that book, past and present, has changed my life in one way or another. And so teachers are very, very special to me. They're very teary when I think about them, and just I've had such big aha moments with each one of you. And so it's really, really special. The book is very special. So, but do you know, I regard The Greatest Secret as the sequel to The Secret, because it really continues on from where The Secret ends. The last, basically, 2 chapters of The Secret, and then this book continues on from there. So I consider it the true sequel. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I think it's really appropriate, really appropriate.
Yeah.
So since you already mentioned that, how do you feel that so many people read the book, watched the movie, did both? I've been on some interviews recently where people said they had watched The Secret 30 times, the original movie, 30 times, and probably read the book the same number of times. So you have many fans from The Secret all over the world. And I've been getting some feedback that some of them are having a hard time adjusting to the almost quantum leap that The Greatest Secret talks about. Although we really did talk about some of that in the book, but a lot of people skipped over that part.
Yeah, they did.
I just want more stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care about that other stuff. How do I get more stuff?
Yeah.
And obviously, this is much more than that. So can you speak to that a little bit, how the two, The Greatest Secret and The Secret, support each other, reinforce each other, help each other, and how they're really the same message, just going deeper?
Just a step further.
Yeah.
Well, if I were to sum up The Secret, then I would say that The Secret reveals to us the power of the mind to create and the power of thought. And that's why it was so incredibly successful, because I think it's the first step to our freedom, that book. The sense of freedom that people felt when they realized that they could create what they want, if they would just focus their thought on what they wanted and not on what they didn't want, that they could direct their life. And so it was just the beginning of the power of the mind. And even though so many people have sabotaged their life by giving their attention to negative thoughts and then creating that in their life, the secret really just showed us that there is just one way to go, and that is to only give your focus to thoughts of what you want. It's that simple, really. And the mind will always be in the physical world this powerful, and our thoughts will always be this powerful to create our life. And so that's the first step. What the greatest secret does is it's also dealing with the mind, but it's showing us that while the mind is an incredible creator of making things appear as appearances, the mind can also be our greatest torturer. And if we give it authority over our life, and if we allow it to be our psychotherapist, our psychologist, our psychiatrist, and we believe negative thoughts, we believe all of those thoughts, then it will bring us asunder. And I think it has done that for many people. And especially in recent times, when we face a challenging event, that's when we get to see how we're going with the mind, right? Because and
everything's,
so
it's
there's a
easy when everything's beautiful.
exactly right. When you're laying by a swimming pool on vacation, it's just, oh, my mind's so quiet. And then when you go through a very challenging event, that's when you get to see how things really are. So in that way, it's a gift. Actually, it's a gift, because we've got to see, well, how am I doing? And are there just so many fearful thoughts coming one after the other, after the other, after the other? And are you believing them all? And so I think the greatest secret, what it does is, first of all, it shows us that any suffering that we are having and going through is coming from negative thoughts and negative feelings, and believing the negative thoughts and then reacting to the negative feelings. And then we're just trapped. We're really, really trapped. And so it's freeing us of suffering. But then at the same time, what it is doing is, as we come to understand the mind and the power of the mind in terms of being our biggest troublemaker, it then frees us from it. So we can use it for what we want. But then when we can be free of it, then the beauty of who we really are will arise, and from within us, and the happiness that we are, our true nature, which is happiness and beauty and love and intelligence and knowing, our true nature will appear. And so in the greatest secret, you learn that the only thing that is covering over your true nature is all of those thoughts and all of those feelings and beliefs and everything that we've kind of piled on since we're really little. And those are the things that are covering up. And the best thing in the world is to let them go. It's the best thing in the world.
I've heard of
you
that.
just, yeah. And you just get happier and happier and happier and happier. And the amazing thing about that happiness, and this comes back to the secret, because in the secret, the creative process was ask, believe, receive. And to receive was to feel good, just feel good. And so when you are not believing the mind so much and not paying attention to those thoughts and not giving it all of your attention, and then the happiness that arises, well, when you are that happy, life is incredible. Life is absolutely incredible. You don't even have to visualize anything, because it just comes.
Right.
It just appears, right? Whatever you need just appears, and you are waking up and existing in this foundation of this peaceful happiness. Like, I don't even know how to describe it, because it's not like happiness that I felt when something manifested, or the difference between the lasting happiness is the same happiness and fleeting happiness, but when it stays with you all of the time, it's this peaceful happiness. Like, yes. It's just, you realize that the happiness that you've longed for all of your life is just this peace. this
Yeah.
incredible
Yeah.
peace. And so you don't get disturbed by all of the comings and goings of the world, or the comings and goings of other people who are, feeling good one day and not so good the other day and want to bite people's heads off. And, you're not
Right.
affected by any of that anymore. And I just think to be free of negative emotions, and I'm only can speak of my own experience. And for the last 4 years, I have dedicated myself to seeing the beliefs that do not serve me at all, which is all of them, and,
Right.
and spotting those beliefs and just like, oh my gosh, that was a belief, and just letting it collapse, and then just feeling lighter and lighter and more expanded and more expanded.
Yeah.
And I mean, all I can say is this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. From the moment that I realized who I really am, which is what the secret reveals, from the moment I realized that, I stopped seeking for a start.
Isn't that a
And I've been,
relief?
isn't it a relief?
Yeah.
I thought I'd be seeking for the rest of my life, and I loved seeking too. I loved it, but I just stopped seeking instantly. And then everything was about being who I am, and practicing that and doing lots of practices so I would be able to share those things, but releasing limiting beliefs and releasing negative emotions. And I mean, I just got to the point I was so excited when a negative emotion appeared, because I would get to let it go. I would
Yes.
just get to welcome that negative feeling and just watch it dissolve. And it happens so quickly the more that you do it, in that the emotion appears and then it's just like gone, like a puff of smoke.
Right, right. It
It's
has
got,
no
because it's
substance. Yeah.
no, and it's got nothing to grip onto, right?
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
key. So
So
can we talk a little bit more about that? One of the things that I love about what was focused on in The Secret is something that we teach too, is that when you recognize, I think actually I have a quote about this in the book, but when you recognize that person that you thought you were isn't actually who you are, and
yeah.
when you start seeing through that, they have less and less for them to stick to. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. And yet, isn't it true that that's probably, I remember how confronting that was for me initially, when that first, you're not the person you think you are. And the mind and the ego is like, what do you mean? I remember how
Right.
confronting that was. And I think in the greatest secret, and it's just trying to be very gentle there, is certainly having the experience of being a person. There's no doubt about that. No one's questioning that. But yeah, it's not who we are. And so it's just incredible that the more that you become who you are, and the less you're identified with this form and the story and everything, the happier you will become and the more magical your life will be. And so it's just so beautiful. It's just like, so it's trying to tell the whole world, you have to go this way. And one of the things that I really love, because I was brought up Christian, and so even though I studied all the religions in my journey, is the prodigal son. And I felt certainly for me that for decades I had been like the prodigal son and just falling over and collapsing, getting up again and wading through mud and really, really, really struggling, until this moment where I saw the truth and was home, instantly home, and home to the welcoming and to the joy and to the happiness. And oh my gosh, it's just, if you could give spoonfuls to every single person, right? And it's crazy because it's who we are. Like, it's already there within everybody. It's who they are. For some, it's sort of a bit of a journey, isn't it? And
Yes, no, it is. It
it
feels like a journey. That's the
it
weird
feels
thing.
like a journey. Yeah.
We're going. It's a journey to where we've never left. Yet it
Yes.
still feels like a journey. It's kind of
It
like,
does.
it's like almost being on a treadmill. I remember one of the things that really hit me early on in this journey for me is that I realized the times I was most aware of the truth of who I am is when I stopped going anywhere. Not just physically, that actually doesn't matter, but
No.
this sense of wanting to get something, wanting to,
Yeah.
even the truth of who you are is always taking you away from it. Has
Yeah.
that been your experience too? That once you see what it is, you realize that you just need to stop looking away from it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's just the slightest shift, isn't it?
Yes.
And in fact, how can you not even be it? You know, I remember when I first realized who I was, and then, oh my gosh, it was just the most incredible moment. I mean, it was January 2016, and I was just, how did I miss this? How did I miss this? It's so obvious. It's right here. How could I possibly have missed it? And then I'd be driving on the freeway. I'm like, I've lost it. I've
Right.
lost
Yeah.
it.
That is how it
And
feels at first. Like, where did it go? Where
right,
did it go?
where'd it go?
I
I'm like,
lost
I've
it.
lost
Right.
it. I've
Right.
got to get it back. I've got to get it back. And then and I remember the way that I would get it back would be, I would say, well, are you aware of that other car? Are you aware of your hands on the steering wheel? Are you aware of this? Are you aware of that? And then I'd be like, there you are. There's
Right.
awareness, you know? And so I would just do things like that, but it would feel exactly like you've lost it. And it isn't, it's just that you put your attention on thinking.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's confusing because we don't realize that the thoughts in our head aren't who we are.
Exactly.
We think we're the thoughts.
We think that's us.
Yeah,
And we're so identified with it,
Yeah.
Hal, aren't we?
Oh
We're
yeah,
so
we
identified.
forget. Francis
Yeah.
Lucille said something to me in, I think it was 94, which really hit me very deeply. He said, how much power does the thought I actually have? The thought.
Mm.
And we get so identified with that thought that we
Yeah.
don't realize that awareness that we are is giving the power to that thought. We
Yeah.
think it's coming from that thought.
Yeah.
And as
Yeah.
soon as you start to see through that, it's very different, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Very. Yeah. It's incredible, really. Yeah, Francis is wonderful, isn't he?
I love
Francis
him.
is, yeah, he's so fantastic. And
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the things I've been loving about doing these interviews is, so like I haven't spoken to Francis since the mid 90s. And and all the other teachers I've been speaking to, it's like rediscovering my deepest friends or my family. And we've been having these wonderful conversations like this, and it's just so affirming that we're all the one self, or
Yeah.
that which we truly are, or
Yeah.
although that sounds a little metaphysical, that pure awareness that is operating through all is speaking through all these different forms, and it's
Yeah.
all spontaneous.
Yeah.
It's
It's
all
incredible, right?
spontaneous.
It's
Yeah.
we're so clever. We're so clever. I love one of the things that Francis said, one of the most incredible things that Francis said that really I love so much, because I'm just all about simplicity. Somehow or another, this form was simple, simple, simple. And one of the things that he said was, it is what is hearing these words right now.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you are what is hearing these words right now. Because I remember for a time, and this was after I knew who I was, but for a time, I was kind of feeling like I had to get somewhere, you know, to be deeper, and
Right.
and that there's another, it's not me, but it's this other one that I have to get to. And then he would say that it's the one that's hearing these words right now. And they'd be like, no, there's no one to get to. It's here. It's here. It's right here. It's hearing these words. And it's just that you gave it the name. You gave that very thing that's aware of absolutely everything in your life, you gave it the name of a Rhonda.
Right.
Right. And that was not its name.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that was
Right.
not it. It is, you know, it is nameless, and it's here. It's the one that's hearing the words. It's the one that's aware that you're sitting here, that you woke up this morning, that you,
Yeah.
yeah,
It watches you wake up.
watches you wake up. Exactly.
We think I wake up. No, what
Yeah.
your watches you wake up every
Okay.
morning. It
Yeah,
watches you go to
beautiful.
sleep. It watches
Yeah.
you go through your whole day,
Yeah, beautiful.
totally oblivious at times.
Yeah. But in
Yeah,
the background, right? And
right.
and so the mind has been such an interesting trickster that it's always has been for many of us in the foreground. And so we don't even notice that beautiful presence that
Mm.
is sitting so quietly in the background. And so as the mind weakens with all of its bits and pieces, with all of its bag of tricks,
Yeah, right, right, right.
its limiting beliefs and its memories and its thoughts and feelings. And as it weakens, then awareness comes to the foreground
Yes,
and it moves into the background. And that's when we're talking about nirvana and heaven on earth. That
yes,
is just is so beautiful.
yes.
And I feel for, you know, when I see people suffering, and I mean I've suffered too. Like I've had lots of things happen in my life. I've created from The Secret, the most incredible life, really amazing dream life. But then things can happen that's sort of outside of that to somebody else who's creating their life, a family member that you love. And so I've had lots of different things, you know, that anybody would consider enormously challenging to go through. But the peace is always there. The peace and happiness is always there. And what I'm talking about, because I feel fledgling awareness,
Yeah, well, there.
compared to you, compared to you, but it just, oh my gosh, so wonderful that when you're facing somebody that you love going through immense suffering,
Mhm.
that you still have that peace, full happiness underneath. And then you are just, you were incredible in being able to comfort and compassion and help. You're a rock. You're a rock for people. So, and I found that when our village was here, I'm in California, and our village was, you know, hit with terrible fires and mudslides. And we lost a lot of people from our village in those mudslides. And at that time, even though it looked like an atomic bomb had been dropped on our whole area, you just couldn't even recognize this beautiful village anymore. Still, in amongst all of that, the happiness and the peace was there. But because of that, I was able to help a lot of people
Yes,
by just sitting down and talking with them, and people who'd lost mothers and loved ones, and so it's really special.
yes. And it was just you being you, not
Mm,
the personal you, the
no,
letting
not
that
the personal
awareness
you.
that you are just
Yeah.
be. This is my belief about this. I might not be expressing it correctly, but it feels like when you are just at rest as that which you are, it invites the person you're speaking to experience the same thing, even if they know nothing about it.
Yeah,
And so,
totally.
and that's what they're looking for anyway. And it's very comforting and it's relaxing and
Yeah,
it's opening. And so
yeah,
it helps people get through whatever they're going through.
yes. Oh, most definitely. And just, I even know from doing interviews for The Greatest Secret, and I did one yesterday for UK, and for gorgeous, gorgeous girl, Fern Cotton. She has millions of followers. And she said to me at the end of the interview, actually, she said that she had woken up in a real funk, and she'd had a really funky day, and she was really depressed, and the lockdown, and it was raining, and the kids were going crazy, and all of that kind of thing. And she said at the end of the interview that she just felt so incredible and so
Mm.
happy. There's just nothing better than that. And actually she jumped onto Instagram and said, I've just finished an interview at podcast and I can't wait till you all see it. And they're all saying, we need it now, we need it now.
That's
And
nice.
but something like that, to just know that, and I'm doing as much as I can for The Greater Secret, and because I just feel in talking about it simplifies it even more,
It
you
does,
know.
yes.
So, you know, in having this conversation with you, and then somebody reads the book or they're reading it, and then these words just make it simpler because it's becoming more familiar. You know, I mean,
Yes.
this truth is there with everyone. This is the truth of who you are. And so the truth is there. And it's only the mind that's like, oh no, I'm not into
Yeah, right.
it. Oh no, no, no,
If it's
no.
not all, it's not all about me personally, so it can't be
Yeah,
true.
that's right. The mind is really incredible, isn't it? Like, I laugh a lot at the mind now. But I mean, it's really, really got bag of tricks going on.
Of
And yet it
course.
doesn't even exist, you know.
I
That's
know.
I know, the bag of non-existent tricks.
Well, that's the nature of a trick.
Yeah.
It appears to be real, but it
Yeah.
isn't.
Yeah, it's an illusion. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it's just, oh, it's awesome. It's
It
really so
is. It is.
amazing. Mm.
Let's give people a little taste. Do you want to give the people listening something they can explore right now? Again, I'm sure they're starting to sense it just from our conversation. All of you watching this now, notice how you feel in this moment. You probably already feel more open, more relaxed, happier, more at ease. And we were just talking about it. So,
Yeah.
Ronnie, why don't you do something simple that you think would help them see it a little more clearly?
See awareness a little more clearly.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I did. This is what I did. It was so simple, really, really simple. I would, and I'm dedicated, you know, there's a dedication happening in this form.
Yeah.
I would, as many times as I possibly could during the day, I would ask, am I aware?
Hmm.
And the moment that I asked that question, awareness was here everywhere. And so initially, when you ask, am I aware, you would just notice that you are aware. And so that's perfect. You were not answering the question. You don't need to answer the question, because when you ask, am I aware, the mind goes into a, ooh, the mind drops because it doesn't recognize awareness. So,
Right.
so you just have this moment of relief when you ask, am I aware? And so I would do that often in the day. Am I aware? And often I would use my feelings as a way to trigger that. So I would notice if the happiness was sort of ebbing a little bit, and then I would ask, am I aware? And then immediately the happiness would arise again. So that's the very first thing that I did. And this is a practice in the book. And this is exactly what I did. And it's so, so simple. And then in a very short amount of time, you can't even ask the question. Because the moment that you go to ask the question, you can't even get it out because awareness is just there. And so step 2 is notice awareness. So after you get to that point, then you can just notice awareness often during the day. And I just did it a lot. And the more that I did it, the deeper it became, the happier I became, the more beliefs I saw that were not true. And then I would ask, because I'm really game, then I would ask to present anything to me that is an obstacle in my path to being fully who I am. And when I would ask that, often all hell would break loose.
Yes, that's what sometimes happens.
Yeah. And so, for example, I had like this health scare, and I remember there was so much fear around. All this fear arose. And I remember I was talking to my teacher, my current teacher, who's also in the book, but she's anonymous. And she said, this is fantastic. This is fear. You know, this is the one. This is the one. You know, this is great. You've got fear to overcome. And I said, yes, but I didn't know that fear would arise from a health scare. I mean, that's not fun.
Right, right.
That's not, like, I just want to tackle fear, you know, over here.
Right,
I
right.
don't,
In
I don't want to
little
have,
boxes, right.
you know, I don't want to have something real attached to it. And she
Right.
said, but you have to have something real attached to it, because otherwise you wouldn't be fearful. And so what happened for me was, this was a gift, and I knew it was a gift. And I knew that when I continued to welcome, and once I had completely, to use your language, to completely released all of the fear around it, that it would be gone. And that's what happened. But the really wonderful thing is that I got to work on fear. And believe me, I was working on it 24 hours a day.
Right.
I was working on it 24 hours a day. And then it got to a point where the health situation was still there. And it just didn't bother me one bit.
Right.
And it just kind of then really just faded away. And so going then into the pandemic, where many people were experiencing fear arising in them, I had no fear whatsoever, because I'd already spent a lot of time releasing fear. And I'm just so enormously grateful for that, because to live a life, even to reduce any amount of the fear that we've suppressed inside of us, is just incredible. So yeah, I was really lucky.
Yes.
So anyway, those are the 2 steps that I did. So am I aware? I would ask that question often. And then you'll get to a point where you don't even have to ask the question, because you go to ask it. And awareness is so present. And the more that you notice awareness, the more it's coming into the foreground, and the more expansive and the more luminous and the more magnificent life becomes, and the happier you become. And so basically, as you're noticing awareness, you're then doing what I've got as step 3, which is stay as awareness.
Right.
And so the one just merges into the other. It's really just the one step.
Right.
But I kind of split it so that people beginning would find it easier. And that's what I did.
Yes. Well, that's beautiful. Again, I just want to say to everybody listening, if you haven't picked up The Greatest Secret, you really need to. It is such a wonderful book. It's so well written. Rhonda did such a beautiful job putting it together. And they're just simple things like what Rhonda just mentioned, those 3 steps. So I just wanted to give you a little plug there. But also,
thank you.
I wanted to
And the audiobook is so gorgeous, because all
I
of
love
you incredible beings are all your voices. So I just think the audiobook is amazing to just bring people to awareness and keep them there, because your voices and your energy and your presence is just amazing.
Yeah, I love the audiobook. I intend to listen to that more than once, and I don't usually do that with anything.
Nor do I, actually.
Isn't it also a feeling of falling in love with
Yeah.
that which you truly are? Isn't that a
Yeah.
natural outflowing of that? Can you speak to that? Because
Definitely. Oh my gosh, it's so like that. That's why I get tears in my eyes when I think of the teachers who were just so generous and so welcoming, and just all of these incredible beings just said, yes, I will be in the book. But let me tell you a story about my current teacher, because in January 2016, when I realized who I was, then a couple of months later, I was at a retreat, and this person walked into the room, and I had been told that this person had been a student of Lester Levenson's and Robert Adams, 2 of my absolute, I can't even speak about them without getting tears.
yes,
Really and truly. And it's because Lester was so simple with his language and so concise, and it's just amazing. And Robert Adams, his work showed me the bridge from the secret to the greatest secret. And so those 2 teachers just meant so much to me. And so this person had been a student of both of them. So I went up to talk to her to say, student of Robert and Lester's. And the moment that I stepped up to her, Rhonda completely disappeared, gone. And I was just home. Tears were streaming down my face of just ecstatic joy and bliss. And in that moment, I felt so desperately in love with who we are. And she reflected back to me who we are, and I became that. And that feeling of being in love is the feeling that is with me every single second of every day.
Yes.
In doing interviews and everything, and I just know with people suffering, you know, so much at the moment, that if they just knew, if they just had a glimpse of how magnificent they really are and how beautiful they are and just how in love with themselves that they are, you know, everything that we are is the opposite of what we think we are.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
Right? Absolutely
Yeah.
everything is the opposite of what we think we are. I mean, the ego and the mind is struggling and effort and all of these different things and wanting approval and wanting attention and all of these things and wanting control and wanting, and who we are is just effortless, glorious, in love with everything,
Yes.
but
Yes.
especially in love with itself.
Right. Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And again, it's also very simple, isn't it? It's one way of expressing it is just this, what's always in the background or in the foreground, depending on when you're paying attention or not, is this sense of affectionate awareness.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I feel so big at the moment that I've got the ocean out there and I'm just like expanding out to
Yes,
the
yes, yes, yes.
expanding out to the ocean
Yeah, and beyond, probably.
and beyond. Yeah.
Yeah, what's when you mentioned Lester and Robert, that really pulls at my heartstrings too, even my personal heartstrings, because I had similar experiences. They basically were my primary teachers in a lot of ways. And when I met Lester, he was the first teacher where I felt this, where there was,
Mm.
oh, oh my God, this is something, there was a recognition,
Yes,
and it made
yes,
me want to dedicate my life to that. And then
yes.
when I met Robert very fortunately right after Lester died. I met Robert,
Right.
and I met him at this coffee shop, and just sitting with him, there was just this wave after wave of just bliss, just
Yeah.
kept passing through awareness. I went, oh, so this is the next person who's going to point me in the correct direction. And
Yeah.
I was incredibly fortunate. I spent 18 years with
S-
Lester and a year and a half with Robert right before he died. So it was
Died.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're just it. And I'm so grateful to you for all of Lester's teachings and for carrying the torch for all of his teachings. And then, as the years have continued on and finding new ways to simplify those teachings and make those teachings more accessible and easier for people. And it's a blessing because nothing has been lost at all.
No,
Absolutely
no,
nothing.
right.
There's one book that I have by my bedside table, and now people have access to that book through the books that you've done, have they not?
Yeah, it's the Happiness is Free
Happiness,
book. The
Happiness
Happiness
is
is Free.
Free book,
Yes.
and so I had the original one of What Happiness is Free, which is completely out of print and you can't get it anyway. But I had that's the only book that I have by my bedside table. That's it. Yeah. I mean, I don't read anymore, Hale. And, I read thousands of books. The search was incredible. It was just relentless. And on the search, I discovered lots of incredible things that people don't know of or anything, sort of, phenomenal things that are
Yes.
pretty thrilling. But I remember there was my mentor who was in the Canary Islands, and he said to me, be very careful. Be
Good
very careful
advice.
that you don't go down the track of the phenomenal, sensational, astral and all of that. Don't
Great
get
advice.
caught.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get caught down there. And like there are times in my life where I'd see all kinds of things and, spectacular things. And I would remember his words and I would be like, no, No, I'm going in a different direction.
Right.
Yeah.
You were
But I didn't
saved.
even know at that time what direction I was going in.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. So
Yeah, but you were saved.
Mm.
That's wonderful.
Oh,
So I watched so many people get caught in phenomena.
yeah. Yeah. And I went through a time, after The Secret, I went through a time of that, and it was just part of the journey, and it was perfect that I had that small time of it, because in so many ways it showed me that everything that we think, nothing is what it appears to be. That's how all of the phenomenal kind of stuff helped me, that nothing is what it appears to be at all. And we're not what we appear to be.
Right.
But that had me, when that happens, then your mind really opens, doesn't it? Would you agree with this, Hale, that one of the trickiest things of all is how closed the mind is?
Yes.
Because, right?
Well,
It's
the mind doesn't even realize it's closed. The mind
no.
only sees mind.
Yes.
It can't see beyond itself, because
No.
even the things that we see in our physical environment, we're seeing the mind's version of it.
That's right.
Right.
We're just looking at our mind. That's
right.
what we're looking at.
But one of the things that people know is that you share in the book, isn't it, that you're actually that which is looking at the mind.
That's right. You wouldn't
We
even know you
forget.
had a mind. You
That's
wouldn't
right.
even know you had a mind, would you? You would not be aware of a mind. You wouldn't even know of a thought without awareness or consciousness. You wouldn't even know there was a thought. You wouldn't know there was a mind. You wouldn't know of memory. You wouldn't know there was a body. You wouldn't know anything. You wouldn't know there's a day or an hour or you wouldn't know anything. You wouldn't know any. You wouldn't be aware of any of your senses. Yeah, it's all awareness, and so
yes.
you're that which is looking at all of it, and so sweetly and beautifully.
Yes.
I mean, I find, that I will just laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh over something. Something will appear, and I see everybody's taking something so seriously, and something will occur to me. I would just laugh. I would just continue to laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. And I'm like, there goes another belief.
Right. Another one bites the dust, right?
Another one bites the dust, yeah. And it's really incredible, this. And I think I mentioned it in The Greatest Secret. I remember I was at a meeting with a teacher, and somebody had asked a question, and the teacher was answering them. And oh my gosh, right then and there, I was like, oh, I just expanded. I just expanded because I realized what that person was talking about and what the teacher was talking about. They were pointing out the belief, and I had that same belief. And so I actually had to get up out of the room and walk out to just be, oh, and watch that belief absolutely collapse and disintegrate. And I can't even tell you what the belief was.
Right, you don't remember it anymore.
I don't remember. I don't remember. I can't remember. It's not there anymore. It's completely gone.
I know.
And so I went to tell the teacher after the meeting. That was so incredible, because I had that belief too. But I don't remember what that belief was. I don't know what that belief was.
Right.
It's great.
I know. It's
really
one
great.
of the ways you can tell that you're really complete on something, because it's not even in your consciousness anymore.
No, it's gone. It's completely gone.
Right.
And then you have all this space for joy and happiness and
Right. Yeah, it's wonderful. We're so fortunate for several reasons. One, to have discovered this within ourselves, and two, to being used to share this with the world. That is such a blessing. Don't you agree? Don't you feel blessed?
I feel so blessed. I feel so blessed that I realized this in this lifetime. I'm just overcome with gratitude and joy to have discovered this. And hey, I would have loved to have discovered it when I was 20, but I didn't. But I'm just enormously grateful to have discovered it. And then to be able to share it is just, it's just above and beyond. It really, really is. It's just the greatest thing in the world. I think there's nothing greater, and there's no stopping it. You know, you can't, like, the sort of push within, it can't be stopped. It's unstoppable to just help and to serve. And the love that I feel for human beings is just, I can't describe it. You know, it's just so enormous. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful.
Yes. It's another tear moment.
Another tear moment. Yes.
Yeah, so it's so nice. I call that wet awareness.
Oh, it's so lovely. It's so lovely. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. So I could speak like this for hours,
Me
but
too.
if we go on too long, it gets too long. And
Yes,
uh,
totally.
so before I wrap up for this part of the podcast, I just wanted you to see if you have any parting words of wisdom or any suggestions for people to explore based
Mm.
on what we discussed, either one or both.
Mm. Well, I would like to say to everybody that there is nothing more important. There's nothing greater than you discovering who you are. And actually, everything else is kind of irrelevant, because the life that you dream of having, and to just realize the eternity of your true nature and not spend a life fearing death, but to make the greatest discovery you can ever make it this lifetime. Do it this lifetime. Do it now. Lester did it in 3 months, whatever he did it in. And I know from my own practice that it doesn't take very long at all. Do it. Just do it. Do it. Do it, because, oh my gosh, I promise you, life will just be incredible, and you'll be so happy. And just discover who you are. Just do it. Just do it.
Yes.
That's all that I have to say. Find out
Okay.
how incredible you are. Find out how beautiful you are. Find out how amazing you are. Do that this lifetime. Make a promise. It's tiny little steps and you'll be there. It's already who you are. So it's not hard. Do it. Except there's no doer, but you know, I have to say.
But we pretend.
We pretend, yeah. we pretend. Realize who you are.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And let that other one go, and that story, and that story, the life and death story, the born and die story. That story, let that one go, because that's not who you are. That's a fun experience that you're having, but it's not who you are.
Right.
Sometimes fun experience, right?
Not
Sometimes,
always.
yeah. For some people, it's fun all the time for me now, but
right.
boy, in my life, there were times it wasn't fun.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Mm.
Life continues. Wouldn't you agree that you're just seeing it from a different point of view?
You're seeing it from a different point of view, and nothing's personal.
Right.
And so nothing disturbs, and it's like this beautiful, calm, still lake that you are, that even if the world is rippling and other people, there's storms all around you, you just remain this still, calm lake.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
That is beautiful. First off, Rhonda, thank you so much for spending the time.
An absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for being a part of The Greatest Secret and contributing to make this book so incredible. And Lester, all of Lester's work. And thank you. And thank you for doing the audiobook, because it was just amazing.
Yeah.
As well. So it's my pleasure and my honor.
I hope you enjoyed our time with Rhonda Byrne, and I wholeheartedly encourage you to get her two famous books, The Secret and The Greatest Secret. You can get them wherever books are sold, anywhere in the world. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and share it with the people you care about. All of the episodes are dedicated to sharing the eternal teachings from The Greatest Secret. As Rhonda said, we've missed the truth for thousands of years because we've not looked at what is right in front of us. We've become easily distracted by our problems, the drama in our lives, the coming and goings of the events in the world, and we've missed the greatest discovery we can make, a discovery that can take us out of suffering and into lasting bliss and happiness. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work, and the Sedona method, please visit sedona.com. As you explore our site, you will learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to sedona.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.